Since the first Olympic Games in Greece, thousands of years ago, man has put their bodies and minds to the test. They ran. Today, the sport is seen everywhere, from city races to high school teams. When it comes to high school, there is one course that is held above the rest, and is found right in the San Gabriel Valley. Cross-country runners squirm at the sound of the name, Mount SAC.
Mount SAC's a bear.
Pain. Suffering.
Hard.
It's hell.
Brutal.
Hills.
Challenging.
Cows.
To truly understand the significance of Mount SAC, we must explore the history of the sport. Cross-country began in England in the early 19th century with a game called Hare and Hounds, where a runner laid a trail by dropping pieces of paper or other markers while following a random course. And a second set of runners then set out in pursuit, trying to follow the paper trail. The first formal school competition was the Crick Run, held at Rugby School in 1837. William C. Vassberg brought cross-country to the United States in 1878 and evolved quickly, and in the 1930s, so many schools began entering teams that the NCAA took it over as a national championship event in 1938. A few years later, in 1946, Mount SAC was built on 421 acres of property. Just 1 year after that, the first Mount SAC invite was held and is welcoming the greatest athletes today, and is the nation's largest and most prestigious cross-country meet. Last year, 16,000 athletes from 500 schools ran on the spectator-friendly course. The course has seen great athletes like Jeff Nelson, a legend in his own time, who held the course record in 1978 until it was broken by Ryan Hall in 2001 with a time of 14:28. Mount SAC is truly an historic place. Athletes put themselves through grueling workouts and strict diets to prepare themselves both physically and mentally for Mount SAC's demanding course. The journey of preparation is long and tiresome, but leads to the arena where the world's greatest athletes compete, Mount San Antonio College's cross-country course.
6 miles a day, which would be like 30 miles a week.
Eat lots of carbs.
So if you're going to work at Mount SAC, if you're going to be successful at Mount SAC, you need to practice at Mount SAC.
Well, you have to do a lot of hill repeats and just a lot of stuff on endurance. I mean, you want to stretch like your legs and stuff so you're not like sore, they don't get cramped.
And stretch really well. Make sure everything's loose.
Long, easy running, warm the muscles, maybe get to a very, very light sweat, but just have the body warm and conditioned to go.
I don't think you can mentally prepare yourself for those hills.
Reluctantly crouched at the starting line, engines pumping and thumping in time. The green light flashes, the flags go up. Churning and burning, they yearn for the cup. They deftly maneuver and muscle for rank. Fuel burning fast on an empty tank. Reckless and wild, they pour through the turn. Their prowess is potent.
First 200 meters of Mount SAC is nuts.
It's all about survival.
Usually like 100.
It's all about survival.
Usually like 100 people in a race.
It's almost a dead sprint.
And they'll trip you, they'll shove you, they'll elbow you, they'll do anything to get in front of you. There's so many people trying to get into such a small area.
After surviving the fast-paced brutality of the start, runners begin the first mile of the Valley Loop. The Valley Loop is a relatively flat, dirt road that runners complete twice, slowly thinning out the competition along the way.
The Valley Loop is really constricting. There's people all around you.
It's the first mile of the race, and it pretty much determines the mood of the entire race.
The first loop is probably the fastest.
Pretty easy, but I know it's going to start getting harder, so I have to build up a good momentum.
Despite runners' thoughts about taking the loop out fast, some coaches have other viewpoints.
First mile at a nice even pace. Yes, you want to get in good position because it does get crowded when you go into that first hill.
Upon reaching the mile marker, runners begin an ascent up a hill known as switchbacks.
It's intense. Whoosh.
By the time you get to the hill, your legs are already dead.
The switchbacks have to be attacked in a sprinter kind of form. You have to use a different arm motion, a attack to the top.
That when you go uphill, you do long arm movements and short strides.
Going up switchbacks, I use twice as much energy.
My thighs are burning. My calves start to hurt at the top.
It's really demoralizing. It's the only time people ever walk.
After an energy-draining push to the top, runners get a quick rest on the steep descent down switchbacks to the airstrip.
Just going down and you have so much momentum, you just fly down like the hill.
Get to your toes running the downhill.
When you go downhill, you do a lot longer strides.
And then the downhill, it reverses the muscles you use, so it's totally different and it makes you relax a little bit more.
At the bottom of the hill, fans wait cheering on the competitors as they psych themselves up for the second hill, Poop Out.
Poop Out is the steepest hill at Mount SAC.
It is just straight up. You can't see the end until you're actually there.
It's your second hill, you're tired after switchback, it's straight up.
Putting so much pressure on my thighs by just driving my knees and my legs up and down going up that.
It was one of the worst pains in my legs I had ever felt in my life.
Like you want to put your hands out in front of you and crawl up instead of run up.
Because all I'm thinking about is getting up that hill.
I have to give that Poop Out hill everything I got.
Once the runners reach the top of Poop Out's steep slope, they're greeted with an even steeper downhill that spits them out onto a silent, lonely 800-meter stretch before their third and final hill.
Top of Poop Out because you have the momentum like coming down it to take you like almost to the bottom like a reservoir.
On the backside of Poop Out and Reservoir is very important to maintain position or to move ahead.
So that backstretch, I think is kind of a dead spot.
Well, it's a little like you just want to like slow down and relax, but you can't. There's no one there to challenge you, so you just slow down.
Dead silence, all you can pretty much hear is yourself breathing and you and the other racers' footsteps hitting the ground.
The backstretch is mentally one of the most challenging aspects of the course, due to the competition being spread out and the lack of fans being there to motivate you. Runners must push themselves through solidarity to reach Reservoir Hill, the last real test of focus, drive, and physical ability on the Mount SAC cross-country course.
It's the last hill and give it all you have.
You realize how drained you are because of the first two hills.
You're tired, but you're trying to tell your body you're not.
And it goes to level out, and then it has a little extra hill at the top.
Your legs are hurting and you don't want to keep going, but you just have to fight through the pain.
It feels like you're running with your stomach sucked in. You have like no air in you.
Just drive.
When you get to the top of the hill, don't slow down. Just keep going faster to build momentum.
At the top of Reservoir Hill, the adrenaline starts to flow as runners receive the last words of advice from their coaches. Then it's all downhill, and a perfect time to pick up speed for that last stretch to the finish line.
There's like 200 meters, 300 meters left of the race.
Now you just start your kick and it's almost over. You're running so fast that you almost lose all feeling in your legs.
This has a huge time. It has your time in huge yellow lettering.
The very last part was the ultimate sign of relief.
Crossing the finish line is a big accomplishment.
I feel great knowing I beat it.
And it was great at the end of the race to know that I accomplished something.
Mount SAC is the place where you test yourself against everyone in Southern Cal.
I consider it to be the toughest in the whole state, and it's famous throughout the world.
Mount SAC is like one of the hardest courses that like you can run in cross country.
Mount SAC, where it's just 3 huge hills.
Up the hills, and you get your ass kicked.
You get on a course like Mount SAC, you will suffer.
It tests your uphill ability, your downhill ability, your kick at the end, and your sprint at the beginning.
It truly is an accomplishment to take that final step across the finish line at Mount SAC's cross-country course. Whether you're the winner of the CAF title or the last place finisher in a league meet, all the runners enjoy the same pride and satisfaction of overcoming Mount SAC's course. From the beginning freshman runner to the history makers and record setters like Mark Matuzak, Tim Nelson, Jeff Nelson, and Ryan Hall, all runners have an overwhelming respect for the Mount SAC course. Mount SAC truly is the Everest of cross-country, proving to other sports how punishing cross-country really is. Mount SAC is the ultimate sacrifice.
Mount SAC is like one of the hardest